A lot of people used to do that. I stink. Hey everyone, so if you have not seen my Twitter yet, I have made an aesthetic version of the starter house. It looks absolutely amazing. If you go in, everything is just white, as aesthetic usually is. I'm not saying every aesthetic builder is like that, but anyways, in today's video, we're gonna take a look at some things we used to do before they updated, and boy, some of them are so embarrassing, but most of us did them when we were building, so let's get right into the video. And if you're wondering how I suddenly became a millionaire after 2 seconds of doing a video, that's because I emptied a plot, I bulldozed it, so no further questions asked. So the first thing that we used to do, or a lot of us used to do, is actually when we wanted to create roofs, let's say we have this as a house, we wanted a modern house or something, and then we wanted to have a flat roof. Now before the roofing update, before you could actually drag out your roofs, we used to place tables on the roof, and I don't know, it looked good, but it also didn't, and a lot of us now regret doing that. So it basically looked like this, and we just had to fill up the entire roof with tables, and if we wanted a skylight in the middle, we had to use glass tables. So it ended up looking something like this, and then in the middle we usually put like glass tables. I'm not speaking for everyone, but I assure you that a lot of people did that. Now I just need to find the glass table that I need. There we go, I think it's that one. And that was our skylight. Of course we had to remove the floor and do that one again. And then to finish off this monstrosity, what we did was go into fences. We took the half wall, or the quarter fence at least, and we did that, and we filled that up all the way to the edges. And then of course, where the skylight is, you wanted to hide that area as well, so you did a little fence in there as well. Going inside of that build, this is what it looked like from the inside. So you had your skylight. It actually doesn't look bad, as I said. It was just a nice trick to have like a raised roof with skylights inside them, especially for modern houses. It definitely looked nice. Now what we can do now, of course, is go into roofs, take the flat roof, and we can just drag it up as much as we want, and that's how easy you can make that roof now. Gosh, the struggle was real back then. Another thing that we used to do, but that is from way back when advanced placing wasn't a thing, ceiling lights weren't a thing either. A lot of us, and I don't know how many are left from the really old players. I feel like I'm alone sometimes. But before ceiling lights were a thing, we actually used to take these garden lights. I think, yeah, it was that one. I think it was that one, because we didn't have a lot of lights. Now before that, we used to actually hide lights everywhere we could, so behind the couches, so that you at least had some light in your house, because you could not have ceiling lights, and the only way to really get lights into your house was by placing floor lamps. So we just hid them everywhere, and it looked hideous. I'm so glad we got ceiling lights. Then this is a really time-consuming one. So before we had cabinets, before we had cabinets, for some weird reason my mind was like, wait, we always had cabinets, but we didn't. So cabinets are really easy. You can open and close them if you walk up to them. They are super convenient to use. You can store stuff inside it. That's amazing. Now before we had cabinets, what a lot of players did was actually go into the storage and then take this oak shelf and then put your placement grid on small advanced placing on, so you needed advanced placing for it. And then what they did was take this and just layer it on top of each other like that. That was really expensive to make a kitchen. And that were our pre-made counters. That was what counters looked like back in the day. It's really expensive to make this. I don't know how much I spent, but each one of these is $40 to place, so you can imagine the cost. And now we have these, and oh my god, godlike. Sometimes we don't appreciate the things we have. Then going back to the modern house that we created, what we used to do as well, before we had any wall trims or stuff like that. So right now, if you want to place a wall trim, you just go ahead and place it like that. Now, before we could even do that, the thing builders did to make wall trims was go to the minor stone wall. These were super thick and they went through doors, so you actually had to stop at doors. And then connect these all the way to the back. And then the only good pillar that we could use to hide those gaps where it stops were these plain wooden pillars, so placement grid large, and then we put those on there. And of course we did the same thing on every floor, and every room in the house had that. There we go. That's one of my that's an old trick I used to use. Then another really popular hack that used to be done and now is done a lot less because we do have a lot more light fixtures now, but before the only chandelier that we had was this antique chandelier. What a lot of people did was place one put your placement grid on medium, and then go back and rotate it just a little bit to make it appear more fancy. And I must admit, it does look more fancy with more arms attached to it. As you can see, I kind of love that a lot better, but a lot of people used to do that. I stink. Anyways, I think that a lot of people still use that to this day. It is still a hack that you can use actually, and I just feel like people use it less because right now we have like the chandeliers and stuff like that, so there's a lot more custom things that you can do with lights now, and this was just one of the early ones, and it is still usable today, of course. Then another thing a lot of people did to create some level to your house was when you have your house, so let me quickly build a wall here. And I don't know if people actually still do that to this day, but there are a lot of new options that you can do to fill an area up, but they wanted to have like a little basement level where you could look inside the basement, or at least it was a little bit deeper than your house. So people created a basement and then go into the basement. And then over here, people put cabinets. So for example, the cheapest one that I can find, let's go for this one. And then in here, people put cabinets to fill up that space. It was a hell of a task to do, especially to paint it, because you needed to pick the right paint, otherwise it would constantly overlap. So for example, if I wanted to paint it in a grass material. So it looks good if you stand still, but as soon as I start moving around, you can see how it starts dancing and being annoying, and oh my god, I hate that so much. And then to finish it off, what people used to do is put plain ramps to the side. And there you have your little incline to look inside the basement. Of course, there's a lot of new ways that you can do to actually look inside your basement. For example, make a basement, put a basic shape, drag it up to the height you prefer, and you can still have an inside look inside your basement without all these monstrous things that you have to do before. It's way easier now. Something else a lot of players used to do is actually match their doors to their windows. And in that sense, I mean, when you wanted to have a certain type of door, let's say these sliding doors, and right next to it you wanted to have full windows. But the problem was, for example, that this window that should match with it comes out a lot higher than the door, and it just didn't look good. So what a lot of people did was actually just remove their door and add a window inside it just to make it look nicer, but then you didn't have a door where you wanted your door to be, and it was so annoying. And now we can actually go ahead and resize this to make it fit, and oh my god, that is such an overlooked feature, but it's so good. And yes, I didn't resize that nicely, I know it's terrible, but you know what I mean. There we go, that's a little better. It's still not there, but we can resize windows, and that's so exciting because a lot of people actually didn't place some doors because the window height right next to it was terrible. For example, these French doors, can I place them in between here? It just looks weird with other windows next to it, and you had to pick a certain type of window, otherwise it would not work. For example, this just looks weird next to it. And you had these windows, these kind of fit, so you had to like pick these windows and put them next to it, but then they came out really low, and for some people it's really annoying because their kitchen is there and the counter comes above the window, but now you can resize that as well, and oh my god, you can drag it up a little bit so that your counter can go right here, flush against the wall without touching the window, and that is such an amazing thing that we have gotten. And then of course we have to give a big shout out to these crates. Oh my god, these crates, before we had basic shapes, these crates were actually used a lot to create vibey areas or fake walls or anything like that, and people stack them up just like this to create like some doors or whatever, or just hide areas from each other, and now we can use basic shapes. It's so useful. Thanks, Queptus and Froggy. And then the thing I'm going to end with, and that is probably the thing that has been used the most in old builds, was where you use a wall as a mountain. So for example, you had this, you made this, and then you just painted that in like a dark stone gray. You made it slate. Let me find slate. I'm too lazy to scroll, not gonna lie. Maybe I'll go for a little bit of a lighter material. And then on top of there, you built your house. And then of course we cannot forget to paint the floor. In front of the house we had to have our set of stairs. That was usually like a rock material as well, but in a different color. And then we weren't even shy, we weren't even embarrassed that we did that. We thought it looked good, all of us thought it looked good. Or most of us. I'm sure there's some people that thought it didn't look good. But we weren't ashamed to actually put a garage inside the hill. Don't care about whether it's rock, whether it's solid or not. We just put our garages inside the hill. That was the house. That was what it looked like to have a hill house. Or for most people, what it looked like to have a hill house. Gosh, the times have changed. Oh, and actually, we weren't afraid to change the color of the grass on top of the hill as well to our liking. So if you wanted to have like a lighter grass, we would totally go ahead and do that no matter what it looked like. It looked good to us. We were so proud of that build. Gosh, I even did speed builds like that where I thought this looked good to live on a rock like that, even though it was a square. So as you probably have guessed, the thing I want to forget about most is these hillside houses, or at least these hill houses where the hills are just walls and look flat. They just go up vertically and that's about it. There's no real definition to them. Now you can actually go ahead and go into build mode, create a little roof in the basement so that it matches up to that. And that looks so much better, even though the top should be in grass. As you can see, that looks a lot better. Of course, we still have that wall piece coming through, but you can easily fix that. There's just a lot of options if you want to have a house on a hill right now. You don't have to go and build square boxes like that and build your house on top of that. So that's a lot better. Let me know some things that you used to do in the comments below, because I definitely want to know what kind of hacks you used to do before we had updates for it. And it's just fun to look back and see the kind of things that we did and kind of be embarrassed about some of them. I actually still like the tables on the roof, even though I won't use that anymore. I think it still looks good in some way. Then the chandelier still looks good as well, but then like the window resizing and stuff like that, just things that we did to, I don't know, to try and make it better, but that was updated now. So I'm very, very happy that that happened, but here we are. It was 2016, 2017, that's what we did. So anyways, let me know your things that you did in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hit that like button, and please subscribe.